Hello, sleepyheads. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Remy and I make ASMR videos. If I sound a little more sing-songy than usual, those of you who have been here for a while know that that's just what I have to do soft speaking without a lot of creaks and gaps, like where no sound comes out, voice cracks and things like that. So please excuse my extra Disney princess inflection, cadence, timbre. Okay. Serious, be serious. Hello, sleepyheads. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Remy and I make ASMR videos. And for today's video, we are saying goodbye to Christmas 2023. You probably won't see this video until at least February. I'm filming it in the last week of January, so at least February, because there are a lot of videos ahead of it on the editing docket. But that feels correct to me as someone who tends to leave my Christmas tree up until the end of January, through January to February 1st if the tree allows. Like, our tree isn't even brown yet, and I always think that's so funny. I don't know, it makes me sad to throw away the Christmas tree before it's even turned brown. I let the tree decide when it's ready to part ways with us. I had a moment of probably visible grief on my face as I caught sound of. Is that an expression, like catching sight of? As I first noticed this leaf blower. Darn it. Darn it. Okay, we're gonna have to try to ignore it. Shoot. Okay. Well. Very frustrating. I just know that this company, they take about an hour to blow all the dust and leaves around a pretty small property in my neighborhood. I'm very happy for the gardener in question, who's always like vibing out with his headphones in, but like he is not in a hurry. And I've definitely seen him just like standing in one spot, blowing dirt from one sidewalk panel, one sidewalk square to the other, to another. And okay, I'm not gonna get too grumpy about it. I'm not annoyed that that this company and its employees are doing, their jobs. But leaf blowers, gas-powered leaf blowers, were banned in Los Angeles quite a while ago because they're terrible. They're just a terrible thing. If you know, you know. Yeah. So, okay. And yeah, it just feels wrong to throw out a tree that's still green. It makes me sad enough to have to get rid of it at all. And so I like to keep it around as long as possible. I let the tree tell me when it's ready to go. But more on our tree later. For now, let's jump in with my gifts, my main gifts for my partner. I took a lo-fi, no speaking, no talking video of the contents of his stocking after he opened it. just because I never got around to showing you that this year. So I'll see if I'll include that. Maybe I'll do it now. Maybe I'll do it at the end of the video. I guess you're about to find out which I decided to do. So, yeah, so what I'm showing you now are his main gifts. So I'm going to tell you about them first, and then I'll show you two of them. The third, I think he's wearing, or it's in his car, or hanging up in his closet, and I don't want to go into his closet when he's not home and without his permission, so I'll just show you two of his items. But first, I'll tell you about them. So the first thing I got him was Akira Kurosawa's book entitled something like an autobiography. It is an autobiography. Or at least something like one. And Kurosawa, we both really love Kurosawa movies. My partner's a big reader. He doesn't read a lot of memoirs and biographies and autobiographies and things like that. But when I looked into this one, I read that it's a very fun, enjoyable read, just because so much of Kurosawa's personality comes through in how he writes and what he chooses to share, what he chooses to focus on. So I thought it was a good pick for him, that he'd really enjoy reading it, because he always loves learning more about Kurosawa movies and is very intrigued by the person behind all of them. So yeah, we recently watched Akira because we'd seen Living with Bill Nighy and really enjoyed it, and we want to watch all of the Kurosawa movies. I think there are 30 just about. We've probably only watched about 10 so far, and really enjoyed all of them. So yeah, they tend to be a little longer, and we're working our way through. And we loved Akira, and I really want to watch To Live in Fear. I don't know if that's a translation, what the original title is, because I think Akira means living or to live. And he has been really enjoying it so far. He's halfway through. And next I got him another film-related present. I got him a pullover fleece, like a pullover sweatshirt, with a scene, a still frame from The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing with Kurt Russell. And I was really happy with this find because often when there's merch related to The Thing, it involves like an illustration or something to do with one of the creatures, The Thing, in one of its chosen forms, or like, I don't want to spoil anything, but you know, wherever it happens to be in its journey, its process. So there's a very iconic moment. People love to put on sweatshirts and merch, all the memorabilia, and those are fun. I think they can be a little cheesy looking sometimes, and I was really excited to find instead a still frame of my partner's favorite scene in the movie. He's told me many times, like once he even forgot that he'd already told me and we were watching it, and he was so excited, and he was like, "Can you guess what my favorite scene is?" And I was like, I gotta come clean, I gotta be honest. Yes, because you've already told me. So yeah, he loves that movie, and I saw it for the very first time in our relationship. Like, I'd never seen it before dating him, and we went to see it at midnight at a gorgeous vintage theater in 35mm. Was it 70? I think it was 35. Amazing experience and totally sold me on the movie, and nothing like seeing a cult classic like that in a room full of its fans, you know, its admirers. So that was a really good experience. Okay, gotta stay focused. So yeah, I found him a sweatshirt with that exact scene, still frame of that exact scene, having to do with blood samples, is all I'll say. And he loves it. He's been wearing it constantly, so that was another win this year. And lastly, he had mentioned in passing, because in years past he's had family members get him puffer jackets from Uniqlo, and they've had down in them, and that's been disappointing for him. I don't think they realized that as a vegan he doesn't wear down. He's also allergic. So for a couple of reasons, it's a very nice gift. For a lot of people, the thought would be that's an especially nice thing to get someone, because down is very warm, and there's usually a higher price point for items with down. But it's just not the right thing for him for all those reasons. So he was chatting to me. He was like, well, it's frustrating because Uniqlo has very good jackets, puffers, you know, jackets of that kind that don't have down. And he started talking about heat tech, and he was like, there's a whole line called heat tech, and that doesn't use down and keeps you nice and warm, and he was just really excited about this. So I went off and did my own research, and the only things they had in their line, their new line, were either they didn't have his size or they just didn't look like his style. So I scoured the internet, you know, secondhand sites, resale sites, and I found a style from years past that I thought he'd really like, in his size, in a color I thought he would like, and new with tags, and got it for a great price, and was all the more excited to have one of his gifts be bought secondhand, because you know that's been a goal of mine, is to buy more things secondhand. Oh good, that leaf blower stopped. I'm so happy about that. So here is the Kurosawa book. And here's the man, the myth, the legend. He's on the front cover too, so this is just a little close-up cutaway. What's my favorite movie so far? I really liked High and Low. But I need to rewatch Yojimbo because it was the very first one we ever watched. I think I'd like it even more now. We always do jokes about the character with the gun. being so proud of his gun. If you know, you know. So sometimes, like, when we're just joking around at home, one of us will, we're just trying to be like, I'm being sneaky. Just trying to be like coy or smug or something. We'll be like, okay, focus. And then here is, oops. Oh gosh, it's overexposed. Oh. Here is that scene. I love the rounded corners. It came in a lot of colors, but ultimately I thought he'd like black with red text. I think one of them had more like a pink. There was a kind of peppery, like a peppery gray one that had a nice look to it, but I think it was more expensive and I just wasn't sure he'd like it, so. Plus I knew I wanted to get him one more thing, so I was trying to, you know, budget across the several items, you know. Not a lot, too much money to any one item. Do you see Kurt Russell? He's already washed it like 10 times. Because he's worn it like every other day since Christmas. So. It's actually funny, I told him I wanted to film this video and asked him if I could use the sweatshirt in the book. He was annoyed because he was like, I was going to wear that sweatshirt today and I was going to read that book at work on my break. Like he's been carrying it around in his backpack. So as he left, he was like, I'm grumpy about this. So let's all say thank you. Thank you to my partner for letting me make this video. But I'm just so happy that he genuinely likes his gifts that much. Speaking of which, here is a picture or some pictures of that jacket. I've been teasing him about when he first went on his rant about heat tech. He's been wearing it a lot and saying, oh, it's keeping me nice and warm, and I'm like, that's because of the heat tech. How about that heat tech? How about that heat tech? Okay, so that's everything that I got my partner for Christmas. I think it went really well. He seems to be really enjoying his gifts. And, you know, it was a year where I didn't have as much to spend. So I was very excited to find some good stuff on a budget. And now I'm going to tell you a little bit about our Christmas candy. Yeah, I don't know why I got so awkward just there. Quick readjustment. Okay. Good. So, before we move on to ornaments, before we move on to ornaments, I wanted to show you some of my family Christmas candy. This is my mom's recipe. I think it's a pretty common recipe. But every year when I was growing up, my mother would make Christmas candy from scratch. She would make magic cookies or 7-layer cookies, and that's what I'm going to show you today. And she would also make fudge, either plain milk chocolate fudge or milk chocolate with walnuts. And she would make panochi. I think it's panoki technically, like, because I think the CH in Italian is a k sound. But in any case, she called it panochi, which is a butterscotch fudge, and then she would make buckeye balls, which were a buttery peanut butter filling, sugary peanut butter filling, rolled into a ball and dipped in fudge, hot fudge, and then left, on a drying rack. And you dip it so that it's almost completely submerged except for a little peak of peanut butter in a little circle, like a dime size, maybe a quarter size opening at the top. So, like an eyeball, buckeye ball. So it doesn't feel like Christmas without my mom's Christmas candy, and my sister in recent years has veganized the recipes, which is no small feat. It's hard enough to make fudge and things like that because, if you know, if you make confections yourself, all kinds of things can go wrong, and they can not turn out as intended. The sugar can burn. There's, things can separate. Things don't melt right. All kinds of things. So my sister made all these recipes vegan, and this year she made magic cookies and fudge with and without walnuts, chocolate fudge, and she sent me like 5 slabs, like picture gallon-sized bags, and like a tray, like she cut like within the trays of candy, she cut out the surface area of a gallon-sized bag and stuffed those slabs into 5 gallon-sized bags and stacked them on top of each other and mailed me like this much chocolate. Like, I don't know what the measurements of a gallon bag are, but it feels like it's maybe 11 by 12, 12 by 12. It's almost a foot across. I'm not certain, but yeah, just imagine. And then at least an inch deep. So we are stocked up. So the idea is that we get to enjoy it year long, but realistically it doesn't last all year long. Not because it won't keep in the freezer if you store it correctly, but because we eat our way through it long before that. So it'll last us through the winter, maybe into spring. So here is, so because it came out of the freezer and it's thawing, the walnuts are falling. And it's just a little messy. But here is a magic cookie. Usually the walnuts are sitting a little more flat. It's a little more orderly. But yeah, they were falling off as it was thawing from the freezer. It also may look a little dry, but it's not. It's scrumptious. So good. It's just, you know, the effects of being stored in the freezer again. So the layers, let me make sure you can see the bottom layer because it's arguably the best layer. So the bottom layer is graham cracker, crushed up, mixed with sugar, and pounded flat. And then there's a layer of, that's interesting, I haven't seen that. It looks like my sister put some bittersweet or semi-sweet chocolate morsels or chocolate chips. And what my mom would do is do the butterscotch layer. These are butterscotch chips. She'd do the butterscotch layer on top of the graham cracker, and then the semi-sweet chocolate chips. I wonder if she does something different, if I'm misremembering, if there's a third kind of chip in the mix. And then a layer of shredded coconut, and then some walnuts. And if you're like, that's only 6 layers, Remy, the last very important component is a drizzle of condensed milk that works its way down through all the layers and binds it all together and makes it extra sweet. So if you're not big on coconut or not big on walnuts, it's not just plain walnuts or plain coconut. It's got that unifying flavor of the condensed milk through all the layers. So they may seem very disparate, but yeah, I think that ties it all together, and it's just fun, the interplay of all the flavors. It's virtually impossible to get everything in your mouth in one bite, so I tend to eat across, like a burrito. There's a right and a wrong way to eat a magic cookie, and I think that you need to, as much as possible, try to get a good mix of all the layers. So whatever that entails, that's what you gotta do. So I'm not gonna eat this right now because I actually thought it would be fun I'm definitely gonna eat this later. I've already had one today, but let me find that rogue walnut. So instead, I thought it would be fun to give you a look inside one of my stocking stuffers, in case you're curious, and you let me know if you'd like me to do this with all of them. I can do a lo-fi video, and I can do a supercut each time I get around to opening up and eating one of my special stocking stuffer candies from Gomax and No Way Foods. If you watched my stocking stuffers video, what I got in my stocking from my boyfriend video, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, if you're interested in me doing this sort of thing with all of them, giving you a cross section, giving you a look inside in case you're curious, not necessarily the eating part, but just showing inside, I'm happy to do that. So let me know. So I'm going to start with the 2 for bar. Remember this? Sorry, did you hear me? Do you remember this? So this is what the bar looks like. Like any other drugstore chocolate, it doesn't melt too quickly in your fingers. It's got a bit of that waxy chocolate feel that we Americans so inexplicably enjoy. We don't just tolerate it, we celebrate it. Okay, so here it is. Oh, that's tough. Do you see the cookie inside? Like with a Twix bar? And there's a layer of caramel here as well. I wish you could see that a little better. Maybe this was a silly idea. Maybe I need like my flash to do it, so maybe the supercut will be better. Yeah, see the caramel? It's soft enough that I feel like most of what you're hearing is just my jaw popping from the exertion of working through caramel. So yeah, that's just a little bit of chocolate. It doesn't feel right doing a Christmas video without a taste of chocolate. Oh, that reminds me. I need to make a note to myself not to eat all of the Christmas candy in the freezer. I really wanted to give some to my neighbor, and I made her a little box and I wrapped it up and I put a little tag on it and left it outside her door, not realizing that she was with her family out of state. So I need to make sure that I don't renege on my promise of Christmas candy awaiting her when she returns. I just really, as you know, I've been worried about her. It's a hard time of year for her because, as I mentioned, our other neighbor and her best friend and roommate passed away around New Year's last year, like 2023. So it's a hard time of year and I'm glad she's with her family, and so thinking of anyone out there who lost anyone around the holidays last year, and if this is your first year without them, it's a lot to process, so I'm sending you a lot of love. I made a mistake in the video. I said that she was a caregiver to her neighbor because of geriatric health needs, but I meant bariatric, and I only clarify that because I think we think when someone's older it's very sad when we lose them, but it's a bit more of a natural thing, natural part of life, and the whole concept of good grief and bad grief. And I think a big part of why I was so sad, so shocking, and something I was having trouble processing and I was really worried for her was that it was very unexpected and she was very young. So yeah, if you've gone through something similar, it's my father's first holiday season without his partner. So yeah, just sending you lots of love, and I'm very glad that you got through it, however you got through it. And in my experience with grief, the holidays don't get easier, but you get stronger. So the pain never goes away, because each year without them feels like an injustice. And so it's not just like they're gone for Christmas, they're gone for Christmas 2023, 2024, 2020, 2025, and it always feels bad not having them there. But your ability to bear that pain grows. Yeah, anyway, don't want to be too much of a downer. Just want to acknowledge what a hard time of year this can be for a lot of reasons, but definitely when you've lost somebody. So, I guess what I'm saying is, don't let me eat all my Christmas candy. I need to set some aside for my neighbor. That's on you, okay? Can you remind me? Please remind me. Okay, so moving on to my ornaments. I said I would show you a few of my favorite ornaments to close things out. I didn't get any new ornaments this year. I was on a budget. I mean, I did end up getting one for a very sad reason. But anyway, so I'm going to show you just a few of my favorites. And next year I can show you some more. Because I love all my ornaments, as you know. So, just picking a few. And before we begin, get into that, I do need to tell you about our very naughty Christmas tree this year. His name is Cicero, and he's wild. Took him some time to adjust to our household, to our family, and in a very effective act of protest, after we'd spent hours decking him, getting all the lights the way we wanted. I'm very particular about ornament placement, so we spent a whole evening doing this. I really want all the ornaments to dangle. That's why I'm so big on nobles over furs. I think they have more room for the dangle, and I think it's pretty when you can see a bit of the trunk, the smooth bark of the trunk, but still lots of fluff on the outer edges. So, yeah, he was beautifully decked and fed. You know, it's really important to water them a ton the first 24 to 48 hours. Skirt was placed, everything was perfect. Kibbe's shell star on top. Everything was done. And we went to bed that night. I remember saying to my partner, "Does it look like Cicero is leaning to you?" And we'd already adjusted him a few times. And my partner said, "I think he'll be okay," but I didn't feel reassured. And I had a really bad feeling. So I took some cardboard and I tried to lift one side, the side to which he was leaning, tried to give it a little extra support, give it a riser of sorts, like fashion one out of cardboard. And it was stable. I made sure, like I did a wobble test. So I felt good about that because, you know, it overcompensated him back in the other direction a little bit. It corrected him. And we went to bed, and at 4:45 in the morning, on the day that my best friend was arriving in town, we awoke to a clatter. There arose such a clatter. It honestly sounded like someone breaking a window. Just the sound of glass. And my partner said, like, shot up in the bed and said, "What was that?" And I knew immediately, like, even in my grogginess, like, within seconds of being conscious, I went, "It's the tree. It's the tree." And we got up and went in the next room, and the tree had face planted. I mean, who's to say that was his face, but plopped on the ground, smashing, breaking five ornaments. 5 ornaments in the process. Very, very sad. Very sad. We weren't sure what was up with him because in the days that followed, we did everything we could to get him sitting upright. He had a very curved trunk, very curved trunk. We speculated that he might have had a soggy or a rotting trunk. That turned out to not be the case, but we were like Googling things, trying to figure it out. We tried 2 different types of stands on him. Nothing worked. And the tree company had us waiting all day. They said they were going to send someone out. It took them 12 hours to get here. I'm sure they were super busy, but we honestly thought they weren't going to come. They showed up at like 9 o'clock at night. And they had us undress on deck the entire tree, which made me very, very sad. And all they did, but to their credit, it worked. Like, this is their area of expertise. They took Cicero out into the back lot, out into the street, put down the bigger of the 2 stands with the wider base, which for the record was not the one with which he was sold. It was the one I invested in because I've always been afraid of this happening. I'm very protective of my ornaments, and just so you know, the base is like this big, and this was a 4-foot something tree. Because we were on a budget, this was a smaller tree, and he kept keeling over. So the employee took him out into the street with this base and slammed him, just good, and slammed him into the base. I think he was very fluffy at the bottom. Maybe they trimmed too much off his trunk or didn't trim enough of his lower branches, so he was having trouble reaching. No matter how we pushed him down, he couldn't reach the prongs, the little spikes inside the base. And he's just small enough that the screws that you turn in, the very long screws that you turn in at 5 points to hold him upright, they weren't quite reaching him. We're not sure. It's not that we didn't try, and not that it didn't seem stable at times. It's just throughout the day, whenever we tried to make the repair, he would start to lean, and we were traumatized after that first night. So I didn't know what to do. I thought we were going to have to get a new tree, and the idea of that waste made me sad. I liked this tree. The potential additional expense if they didn't refund us. Were we just not going to have a tree this year? Was it just going to keep falling over? Was it going to break more of my ornaments? I was stressed out. But it all worked out after getting body slammed into his stand. He never budged. Straight as an arrow. And the next morning, we put on Christmas music, and we decorated him again, and I think he looked even better the second time. And I was worried he would die prematurely because of that day or so without water, when we didn't trust him and we took off all the ornaments and didn't refill it, and we were waiting for the employee. I thought he would dry out. He's still green. So, good little tree. Just complicated tree. So with one final readjustment, let's take a look at these ornaments. So one of the ornaments that we lost in the ruckus, in the fray, in the ruckus. One of the ornaments that we lost in the catastrophe. I was able to find on eBay and replace, just because it was truly like the ornaments that were broke were exclusively favorites. Like one wood cut snowflake that came in a set of 12, which is not that big a deal, but everything else headliners. It's like he knew. It's like he knew. He was really acting out. He really wanted some attention. So yeah, I was able to replace one of them, and the other two sadly, and then the other three sadly not. So I think I've shown you this in the past. If you want a tree tour, not from this year, I'm not doing that this year, but I think the year before last, I think 2 years ago, I did a lo-fi tree tour in one of my Christmas videos. So if you want to see more of my ornaments, my lights, my bubblers, you can take a look. I'll try to find that and link that below. So this is Santa dressing himself. So he starts with a yawn and a stretch in his onesie with polka dots, and then as you turn it around, he's getting his crushed velvet trousers on. It's iconic. Red pants, fur lined or fur trimmed, right? And then his jacket or coat, whichever you think. I love that underneath it all he still has his onesie on. His, maybe it's like long johns to keep him warm. I hope they're thermal, I really do. And then he's sitting down to put on his shoes. Santa puts his shoes on just the same as we all do, one boot at a time. Do you see his rosy little cheek? And then I love this. He's putting on his cap. We missed the belt, but he's putting on his cap and he's checking himself in the mirror. Gotta look nice for the most important day of his work year. And then he's ready to go. Like he's a kid on the first day back at school. Got his backpack and he's like, bye mom, bye dad. He's got his pack and they're like, have a good day. So anyway, this was Pier 1. This was Pier 1 2015, which I didn't know. So I just did like a Boolean search. Just searched the words Santa getting dressed, Christmas ornament. And I'm lucky that it's such a specific thing, because another ornament that broke, another favorite, has been impossible to find with the applicable search terms. It's just too vague. Too many options out there. So this one was a partial break, like half the orb broke. So I have the original hanging on our tree, even though that's a little dangerous. This took a while to arrive, and I really wanted it on the tree. I really wanted it on the tree, and my boyfriend and I are the only ones who live here, are the only ones who live here, and we know are the only ones who live here, and we know to mind our fingers, be careful. But it's kind of nice, funny enough, the lights behind it, because it's missing its back half. They shine into it and it looks like it lights up a little bit. It glows a teeny tiny bit. Happy little accident. But I'm glad to have a whole one because of the way it's designed. When part of it's broken off, you're missing part of the little story. And then this is a very sad box. I'm so excited, by the way. I think this video is going to be over an hour and it's soft speaking. I feel very good about that. I feel like it's going well. So sad in here. So I'm gonna be very careful not to cut myself. My boyfriend would be so mad at me if he knew I was doing this. He worries about my spatial awareness and the risks I sometimes take. Don't we all feel that way with our loved ones though? We're like, do you have to climb up on the counter that way? So this one was a little ceramic bulb or ball, whatever you say, orb. Which do you say? Tell me in the comments. Sometimes I think people overdo it with the tell me in the comments, but I am always very interested in what you have to say. So this one, sorry for the renewed leaf blowing action. Sorry about the renewed leaf blowing effort, whatever. I don't know what I'm talking about to you. So this one had, this one had a painted Christmas tree, really sweet. You can sort of still see, you can sort of still see the top, the little sprig at the top. No star or angel or anything like that on this particular tree, which feels kind of nice and old-fashioned. I feel like I've seen a book with a tree without a star on top. Maybe it was The Tiniest or Littlest Christmas Tree, some book with mice, and they take a little tree trimming and drag it into their mouse hole, their little mouse home for their little Christmas tree. And they use little bits and pieces from around the house to decorate their halls, their tiny halls. Saying things like that coupled with the sing-songy quality I have when I'm doing soft speaking, which is nothing like my actual speaking voice, I don't think anyway. Talking about animals being cute, which I very sincerely feel, like I really do think things like that are adorable, but talking about it while I'm using my very sing-songy, soft-speaking voice, there's something that feels a little ridiculous about that. So my best friend gave me this ornament. I'm just gonna cover her face. She gave me this ornament. It has a photo of us together, just embracing and being deeply in love with each other. So of course, the ornament that she gave me would be one of the ones that got smashed the very first year I ever put it on my tree, because she gave it to me for my birthday last year. So, in point of fact, it had been up for less than a day. It got to live out its destiny, its purpose as a Christmas ornament for less than 24 hours. So that's very sad to me. I really am terribly sorry about this leaf blower. Here we have teeny tiny pieces of Santa Claus getting dressed. So yeah, here are all the pieces. And then this big one. So this very precious one. Gosh. Now this one is the saddest of all, just because I can't find it anywhere online. And it's smashed to absolute bits. It was a very large, very beautiful orb. And I don't know what you call this kind of vaulted look, but it was very dimensional, very geometric, but in a very dimensional way, and has a very stained glass look to it, with a very light yellow-green and red and purple. I don't know if you can distinguish between the two in this light, but there's red and purple, and gold glitter trim. And the orb itself was probably about the size of a grapefruit, a little smaller than a cantaloupe. So gorgeous. Big statement piece. You obviously can't have a ton of ornaments this big, but it just felt really special. I think I got it from like Home Goods or World Market or maybe even Marshall's or Ross, any of the places my mom would take me growing up. I've been obsessed with Christmas ornaments all my life. My mom's also obsessed with Christmas ornaments, so it stands to reason. And my sister recently told me that apparently one time when I was really little, our family Christmas tree fell and broke a lot of my mom's favorite ornaments, which makes me so sad because I'm sure they were like antiques. I'm sure a lot of them were heirlooms handed down to her from her childhood. Very sad. Did you ever in school make those window, did you ever use those gels that you would use on like a light in a theater? You can cut them up, those lighting gels, and create a flat, like two-dimensional stained glass piece. Like usually it was a very geometric activity. You would make something out of a bunch of different shapes interlocking with the stained glasses, but the point of it was very much like a combo, an activity that combined geometry and art, and you can hang them in your window. Did you ever do that in school? This reminds me of that. I think these are even one of the colors I used in mine, because they had lots of colors you could choose from. So pretty, and it's hard probably for you to see just how dimensional it is, but see that? See all that concavity? So, very sad. Here's the little top. And I think I knew it was going to happen, as silly as that sounds. I had such a random thought about that ornament. Like a day or so before this happened, before we even knew that the tree was leaning, when I was getting all the ornaments out of the closet, because we had the tree for like a week before we decorated, just standing bare because we had to wait for my partner to have time to do it and he was working a lot. So I had a thought when I was getting out the ornaments and I saw this one and I thought, what will I do with that one when it breaks? Should I put it in a shadow box? Should I try to like frame the pieces? Would that even be possible? And I thought of what the pieces would be like if it shattered and how jagged they'd be because of all its interesting shapes and it being faceted, multifaceted in that way. So it was a very strange thought, and I remember having it and going, why would I think that? And like, of all my ornaments, about this one. But not to give myself too much credit, because I didn't have any thoughts about any of the other ones that broke. So okay, so a few of my favorites that didn't break, just to count our blessings. First we have this. Oops, let me fix that. It's caught. And it's a bit of a cage. It's very forked. It's a snowflake, but it's made of metal that's been painted with gold and glitter. And it's pinched together on the sides and blossoms out from a joint core, joint center, in a way that makes it nice and dimensional. Do you see what I mean? It's kind of wrought, or maybe that's an exaggeration. It's bent into this cushioned shape. And it has a prism, and it has a crystal, just an acrylic or a plastic crystal, dangling from its bottommost tine, or what would you call this? Tip? I don't know. And it's got a rhinestone in the center of each, which gives it an almost floral quality. And I love this one. It's so simple, but it dangles so beautifully. It's lightweight, so you can hang it from a smaller sprig without worrying, and it fills gaps in the tree really nicely. And you know how I love anything that dangles. So an ornament like this I'm really gonna love. And I really love ornaments that have a handmade feel without being too handmade. Like handmade by someone who's really good at crafts. Like something my grandmother would make. My grandmothers were both very good at crafting. So it's got that sweet, somewhat homemade quality. Like if you're someone who is good at finding supplies. Like I don't think I'd like an ornament that's just like made of popsicle sticks necessarily. As sweet as that is. Like I'm sure I'd love it if like my niece made me one. But something that involves a little more effort. Just because again, I have so many things. There are so many things our grandmothers made by hand that are amazing. But they have that feel to them. You can just tell that they just decided one day to do a little crafting. And that's what this reminds me of. Okay. And in a similar vein, I love the simplicity of this one. Looks almost like a little maple leaf. It's red, it's very autumnal, and it's just particle board or like a very lightweight wood, painted red. It's got some extra visual interest because it has this thread strung through all 6 of its points and into its center. And then I added this ribbon. I added ribbon to a lot of mine just so I didn't have to fuss with the metal hooks. Sometimes I use metal hooks if it's a heavier ornament, but for the most part I used red ribbon. Did I say thread? I meant red ribbon. And then dangling from the bottom is a tiny little bulb, a little bauble, like you so often see on a Christmas tree, but this one is gold, and it's a clouded, kind of mottled gold. I said mottled in a very funny way. Reminds me of what I consider the superior lyric for Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. I don't like we'll have to until then we'll have to carry on somehow. There's something like that, we'll have to make it through. I don't like any of that. For me, it's muddle through or nothing. We'll have to muddle through somehow. So me saying modeled reminded me of that. I think I just wanted you to be able to hear with my soft speaking that I was saying mottled with T's and not modeled, like modeling clay, you know? Modeled. So this one's really sweet, very simple, again has that crafted feel to it, and dangles really beautifully. So I think of these as companions. Kind of an odd couple. They look so great together. Next we have an ornament that I added to my collection in, I think, 2021, maybe? 2021. Oops. It's really gorgeous. Have I shown you this before? I'm having deja vu. Sorry if I've shown you all of these before. It's... what is that? Lucite? Maybe it's just clear acrylic, but it's a disc with a very retro, very vintage looking, like that kind of Victorian aesthetic of the crescent moon with a face and lots of stars in the sky as its backdrop. But I love the way the crescent disappears into the perimeter, the circumference of this disc, and there's gold all around the rim. Did you hear me? Can you make out what I'm saying? There's a gold rim. This is about the size of a can, like a can opening. And then it's got this really scratchy, lovely, glittery ribbon and gold. Oops. Butterfingers. Nice and thick. Isn't this gorgeous? And lastly, this is from a set of two, or I bought two, and the other one has little hints of green mixed in. Yes, I've definitely shown you this before. Did I pick like the same few ornaments to show you? I'm so silly, if so, I'm sorry. Anyway, we're gonna muddle through. This is a little candy cane, flavored lollipop. Is that right? The right way to say it? It's a peppermint lollipop. Because candy canes are also made of peppermint, but that's more the shape. The candy itself is peppermint. So this is a peppermint lollipop. Tell me if you agree, because a candy cane can come in other flavors. Like you have the Lifesavers candy canes in very fruity flavors. But if you're not aware, the classic is peppermint. And this is very glittery. I think it's like modeling clay. Yeah, I think so. Speaking of modeling clay, that's so funny. You're like, it's mildly funny, Remy. carried away. So yeah, I have one that has little bits of green, but otherwise looks exactly the same. And this one, it's really nice to fill big gaps. It's another statement piece. And it reminds me of the little lollipops that my grandmother incorporated into one of the 3 advent calendars that she made for my siblings and me out of felt and lots of Velcro, and one of them was a little cottage, a little Christmas cottage with sweet little faces looking out the window and deer out in the woods behind it, and a little walkway to the front door, and on either side the front door was flanked with candy canes, lollipops. And I think Santa was going down the chimney. Like, I think maybe the 25th, maybe the last day, you put his little head atop the chimney like he was going down it at that very moment. Which I don't think made much sense because it was a daytime scene, but whatever. Maybe he was like in Iceland, and the days are very long. And there's virtually no darkness, but still a nighttime, you know? But still nighttime for them. Okay, so that's everything I wanted to show you this year, and give Christmas 2023 a proper goodbye. I had a really wonderful time. Tree drama aside, I feel very lucky, and as you know, I was able to spend Christmas with my nieces, having a lot of fun together. I was able to see my sister only just in November, so even though I didn't get to see her for Christmas really, I was just lucky to get to spend time with family this year, and I even saw my family, and I even saw the rest of my family on the East Coast just at the end of October. So it was a very lucky holiday season for me. That doesn't always happen like that. And I got to see my Arizona family too. So lots of quality time with amazing people. I love my partner's family. I had a wonderful time with them. And now I'm ready to let it all go and welcome in a new season. Who wants to let go of Christmas when it's just like the doldrums of winter afterwards? And I'm saying that as someone with a winter birthday, and my partner also has a winter birthday. Lots of wonderful people with winter birthdays. So the things that really brighten this time of year for me are all those birthday celebrations and holding on to the last little bits of Christmas and reminiscing fondly on all the happy things that happened in the season, and hope for the new year. Lots of hopeful energy going into the new year. So I wish that for you all, and thank you for your patience. I got my Christmas videos out a little earlier this year, and wishing you a very happy whatever time of year we're in now. I just hope you're happy, and thank you all so much for watching and listening. I hope you get lots and lots of good REM sleep, and as always, I hope all your dreams are sweet. Bye. Such funny fingers lately when I say goodbye.